We're connected, everybody. You might be asked to confirm that you're happy with that. We're live for the John Lavenia Success Mastermind session, 24th of August general session in 2021. The year is advancing. The year is advancing, and a lot has happened this year for a lot of people in the group, which I'm very pleased to see. There's high energy, and I think we've had some great sessions recently. Just housekeeping wise, before we get rolling, there is another session today. Ivier is speaking, Ivier Barnabas speaking tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern Time US, which I think is 10 p.m. UK time. So if anyone can do that session, corporate curios, well worth a look in. Great discussion of human relations, team issues management in a corporate environment. So all sorts of wonderful stories, drawing out moral issues, drawing out management issues, personnel issues, and all the things that confront us in what we're doing. So I'm going to start off. People will dial in as we get going, but let's go for it. I can always summarize where we've got to. I was thinking a lot about inspirational people, what has happened to them and what they had to do to get on. And it struck me that throughout history, really, and all the people I've read about over the past several years now, through most of history, people have said no most of the time. They just say no. They don't want things to change. They don't want things to happen. So these people who set out on journeys such as we're doing were just told straight no throughout history. Don't do it. We don't want this. It's not going to work. No, it was always no. People have resisted countless times change and innovation. And that's really set innovators and entrepreneurs at odds with the mass of public opinion on many, many occasions. The mass of public opinion often being the no vote. Don't do it. We don't want it. We don't like change. So we will find ourselves often on the other side of that fence as entrepreneurs, which in turn often leads to being an innovator. Because the more you get into a business, you often find you're changing things, upgrading things, improving things. Innovation like that is challenging for people, especially if they love the old way and they couldn't have imagined it being any different. And I was very interested to note a comment made by the very famous economist Joseph Schumpeter, who some of you will have read. He remarked that the work of innovators and entrepreneurs exposed them to social ostracism, to physical prevention, or to direct attack, which sounds quite dramatic. He actually said that, believe it or not, in 1912 in the original German version of his very famous treatise on the economy, The Theory of Economic Development. A startling statement. It's worth reading it, I think, to show how deep the problem is. He said, in the breast of one who wishes to do something new, the forces of habits rise up and bear witness against the embryonic project, which might be our project. The reaction of the social environment against one who wishes to do something new, any deviating conduct by a member of a social group is condemned. Even more astonishment at the deviation, even more noticing it, it exercises a pressure on the individual. The manifestation of condemnation may even come to social ostracism, as I mentioned, and finally to physical prevention or direct attack. He put it as strongly as that. We're setting ourselves in conflict with large sections of society who just don't like what we're proposing, particularly if it's new, particularly if you're a new provider on the block, the idea is brand new, or you've changed something. He also pointed out that in his view, and he's said this many, many times in different ways, profit is the payment you get when you take advantage of change. So Joseph Schumpeter, well worth reading. That's very interesting. If we actually consider what those two quotes I've read out mean for us for a moment, this puts us in entrepreneurs, as I say, in conflict with the status quo, the whole system, the system we often talk about. We're going against the system. We've got to get used to that. We've got to learn never to take no for an answer, because we are swimming against the tide of no's. We're fighting the system, people in stasis, not wanting to change, not wanting you to offer them anything new sometimes. It's a current of resistance or friction that we will encounter quite often as an entrepreneur. And to succeed as an entrepreneur, therefore, we have to develop that very resilient, tough mindset, and one in which no never means no. It just means how to us. We have to think differently. We really have to rewire ourselves to think differently. We can't just, as we might have done through our upbringing as children in school, hear no and accept it. We can't do that as an entrepreneur. That is the death knell of every entrepreneur. It's going to land you in stasis and inaction. So in addition to saying no, as I say, people resist change. It promotes anxiety. It actually causes fear, real fear in some people. It takes people out of their comfort zones, which of course they don't like. And that resistance in turn leads to a lot more no's. It's easier to say no than to say yes. Just no because they're not sure, no because they're afraid, no because they're anxious. It's very easy for people to say that. And let's just look at some examples. Entrepreneurs in the past and key events, key thinkers and movers in the past, and what happened to them. People said no to the car, the motor car that we take for granted now. They said no to that. It was dangerous. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't practical. Now, believe it or not, and I'm not sure if anything equivalent happened in the US, but in the UK in 1865, they enacted what was called the Red Flag Act, which I know very well because its abolition gave rise to the London to Brighton run for veteran cars, which still takes place to this day, commemorating the abolition of the Red Flag Act. What the Red Flag Act said was these things are dangerous. We don't like them. Everyone's against them. We want to stop them. So somebody has to walk in front of the car with a red flag warning people that the car is coming 180 feet in front. And the speed limit, by the way, 4 miles an hour in the country, 2 miles an hour in the city, which effectively totally negated the usefulness of this incredible invention. People just said no. But you know, the pioneers, the entrepreneurs involved, they carried on. And we now rely on those motor cars for everyday transport. Very few of us now rely on the horse and cart. I think that's pretty clear. So those people that said no and looked at the horse and cart just didn't want it. They didn't want it. Where would we be now if all of those motor car investors and entrepreneurs had said, okay, that's no, that means no, great, okay, let's pack it up. Not going to work. No, they didn't do that. Now, I'm not sure how things are in Arizona, John, when he sees the recording, but perhaps he'll tell us how things are with a motor car in Arizona. More recently, of course, we've just seen and lived through the start of the whole episode of the electric car, which again, people said wasn't going to work. It wasn't practical. It was too expensive, not enough charging points, not enough range. But very soon, as we're now already seeing, the electric car is going to dominate the market and transport, just as the motor car did. That was just a no at the start. Visionaries and entrepreneurs had to say, we are not accepting this no. The Post-it note we all used to use, some of us now use electronic versions of it, but all of us surely used to have Post-it notes all over our desks, our screens, our houses, our fridges. 3M rejected its use originally. They couldn't get it to work. They couldn't get the reusable adhesive to the right stickability to get it to work. And what they were trying to do, that part of the resistance was they were actually trying to develop a super adhesive. But out came this reusable low stick adhesive, and they didn't know what to do with the damn thing. The inventor did not take no for an answer. He didn't take a technical no. He didn't take a business no from the management as an answer. He did not give up 3 feet from goal. He carried on, and eventually one of his colleagues noticed that he had to mark places in his prayer book, and this was the perfect thing to do it with, and hence the Post-it note was taken seriously, and suddenly it was a yes. But he could have given up long before that ever happened. And who knows, we may never have seen or used the Post-it note. So entrepreneurship is littered with these examples. Every new railway practically in the 19th century was opposed, certainly in the UK. People did not want them in their town. They were frightened of them. They thought they would destroy the town, destroy their countryside. They just did not like these trains. Alarming new technologies developed to the extent that whole movements arose in the 19th century to stop them. So it was no with violence, actual violence. The Luddites, you may have heard of in the UK, protested. They were a secret movement. We still use that name today, Luddite, as meaning a derogatory term for someone that rejects technology, but it was an actual secret movement of people that went round and they broke up all the new machines as they were installed, all the new power looms, etc. They just broke them up. They didn't want them. It was a plain no. We don't want this innovation. We don't want these entrepreneurs doing this business a different way. They thought they would lose their jobs. They thought a number of things. We all know where we are now. Xerox effectively said no to the computer mouse that I've got in my hand right now, and that you've probably all got in front of you right now. They had this mouse, but they couldn't really do anything with it. Steve Jobs came along on a visit and immediately saw its potential, went off and had it redesigned. In the original version of Xerox, you could only type entries in through the keyboard. You couldn't really use this mouse. It didn't move very well, and you couldn't move and drag and drop things. Apple then worked out how to drag and drop with it, how to move things around and drop them into other folders, and they got it to turn and roll properly. So it was a very usable human interface. And the mouse was born. Bingo, bingo, the modern computer interface that we all totally rely on was born. That wasn't going to happen until an entrepreneur like Steve Jobs came along and said, hey, no, this is not a no, this is a brilliant thing. It just needs changing, it just needs adapting, and it just needs to work properly, which of course he was a genius at. And hey presto, the thing has transformed our lives. And there are countless other examples. The cell phone in the 80s, charging for 10 hours with 30 minutes use, weighing 2 pounds, costing $4,000 in 1983, which in 1983 was a heck of a lot of money, wasn't going to catch on. It was just a no. But people put money in, time in, and entrepreneurs came in from all angles and worked out how to miniaturize these things, power them properly, get the battery technology right, and get on with it. And where are we now? We're all totally and utterly tied to those devices now. And they've evolved to become computers more powerful than the computers that existed on our desks then. But there are still groups of people who fear making change, but they also fear us changing, because it confronts them perhaps with their own failure and their own feeling of inadequacy or underperformance. So when we come along as an entrepreneur and they can see we're innovating and changing and not taking no for an answer, it challenges people. So be prepared to come up against that as well. We'll be surrounded by no's from negative people who just don't want us to do anything for their own personal reasons, not just fear of the technology or change, but their own personal confrontation of their own failure to perhaps pursue their own dreams and goals. I think a lot of us will have probably seen that. And by all means, dive in when I open the floor, because I'd love to hear any examples you've come across of people saying no to you for whatever reason. Looking at some of the people, we've got some fantastic inspirational examples of entrepreneurs or leaders who never took no for an answer, that I always have pinned in my mental board space, because it's so easy to get disheartened when something isn't going the right way. It proves to be more difficult than you thought, or more expensive and complicated than you thought. It's always worth standing back and taking another look at the problem. Steve Jobs again. Steve Jobs did not have any advantages. He was adopted early in life. His father was a Coast Guard engineer. Neither parent in the adoptive parents was college educated. He had nothing particular going for him to point him in a particular direction. He worked in lots of different fairly low-paid positions, machinist, etc. But he was brought up around making things and craftsmanship with his engineer father. But they had limited funds, but he just knew what he wanted. He began to focus on what he really wanted, and he knew nothing else would do. And out comes this entrepreneur who revolutionized computing, music, animation, communications. I mean, he has revolutionized personally several major industries which now work on his specification. Key examples that stick in my mind as well. He said he had to have glass staircases in every Apple store. And they said, no, can't be done, can't do it. What did he do? He got a team of scientists together. He patented the technology for making the glass staircase strong enough, etc., for use. And they're now in the shops. And he actually has the patents, or had the patents. So he did not take that no. Everyone said no, can't be done. He said, I am only accepting the stone from the pavements in Florence on the floor of my Apple shops when he launched them. They said, no, you're crazy. But he pushed it. They bought the stone from the quarries and they installed Florentine paving slab stone on the floors of those shops, because that's what he had to have. He wasn't going to give up. No never meant no. He actually went to the trouble of color coding every single robot in his factory. But he didn't just get the standard Pantone. Everyone's familiar with Pantone charts, I think. Pantone colors. He said, no, I don't like those Pantone colors. I want new Pantone colors just for me. and pushed until he got them. Every robot was colored with his own Pantone color. So this shows you the level to which some people are prepared to push against the word no. No for Steve Jobs, it's never been done, it can't be done. For him, that meant, yes, how do I do it? And I think we've got to draw some lessons from these people. Yes, how do I do it? Not, okay, it's no, I'll start again on something different. There may be a way. There may be a way. There may be a reason someone is saying no. There might be something you can do about it. Hannibal in history, the great Carthaginian general who attacked the Romans over the Alps using elephants. He marched from the Swiss side of the Alps, over the Alps, into northern Italy to attack the Romans. Now, that doesn't sound, well, it sounds pretty dramatic, but when you consider that Carthage is in North Africa, where modern day Tunisia is, they first of all had to expand their empire around North Africa and then attack all the way from Spain. So he led his army with the elephants of all things from Spain, having come from North Africa, because the Romans controlled all the sea crossings and they were heavily fortified in the south towards Carthage. There's pretty much no way he was going to get through there. He just said, no, not possible means let's take a different approach. I'll go all the way.
Adrian, you're frozen. Can you refresh? I don't know if you can hear us. Oh, he left. Okay, he'll be back. What a great topic though, huh?
Maybe
hopefully he's able to come back.
Yeah, I'm glad he was there this morning though, because last time he couldn't come because of weather.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask him if they suffered anything, and it didn't seem like they got too much wind or rain, but I don't really know.
I didn't get on early this morning. I lost track of time. Anybody in on this morning?
Here he comes.
I have to say,
I'm sorry, folks. Can you see me? Can you see me? I don't know what happened there. The whole thing just shut down.
You froze and the rest of us knew it.
I'm terribly sorry. No, the whole connection just dropped and it's taken this long for it to reconnect. So hopefully it won't happen again. I was just talking about Hannibal and went on to Henry Ford, another person that never, ever accepted no.
We only had elephants, Adrian, no Ford.
Well, absolutely. There was no Ford.
No Ford.
So Henry, yeah, great. Henry Ford, no, it still shows its recording. That's good news. Henry Ford said if he'd given the people what he wanted, he would have given them a faster horse. They didn't understand what he was doing and what the other motor engineers were doing. They just said, no, we don't want this. It was way beyond their imaginings of what could be done with this newfangled technology. For Henry Ford, no meant I will lead and they will understand and they'll follow later. Let's just get on with it. So it's about being a leader, an innovator, a thought innovator, and being prepared in our mental fortitude to stand alone and say, we're going to feel pretty isolated. We're going to be criticized. People are going to say no in large numbers. We might even be ridiculed. In terms of Schumpeter's quote, we might even be physically restrained, but we have to be prepared to press on our own way with our idea. This is how great ideas are born and how great things happen and how entrepreneurs change entire industries, dismantle them and rebuild them. Look at the whole industry that surrounded feeding and looking after horses and carts. It disappeared. It largely disappeared. That was the whole infrastructure of the country, or many countries at that point. Henry Ford and his contemporaries changed everything. The moon program, people said, no, it can't be done. Kennedy made a speech on the 25th of May, 1961, saying within the decade, we're going to land an American on the moon. A lot of people thought he was completely crazy. but it was achieved by the end of 1969. So they did it. They did exactly what they said. They had to design everything that was required within that 8-year period. Everything had to be designed and tested and built, including the rocket itself, the launch site, the lunar lander, the spacesuits, fly-by-wire technology, and a lot of other things we now use in the aviation industry were designed for those purposes. It's utterly mind-blowing what they did. They said, we're doing it, and they did it. So from propulsion to navigation, the calculation systems required, they did it, they delivered. And it had never been done. People said, no, it's never been done. For NASA and for Kennedy, that meant let's design the future and make it possible. It didn't mean no. Again, no did not mean no. And we have to understand that for ourselves. No does not mean no to an entrepreneur. Thomas Edison, one that we've quoted many times, 10,000 light bulb attempts to get the light bulb to work. He said, I haven't failed, because people said, no, this is not going to work. Can you imagine what they were saying after 9,000 attempts, what they were saying? No way. No, it's not going to work. He kept going for another 1,000 attempts. He got to his 10,000 before it worked. And he said, I haven't failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So just think of that. Hold that in your mind when you're struggling with a problem. 10,000 ways that don't work, I've discovered. I'm going to find the one that does. He didn't accept each failure as no. He viewed each single case as a removal of a solution that wasn't going to work. So he could move on to the next one. So no to him was an invitation to continue by narrowing down the possible solutions. It did not mean no. So we can see that there are many shades of no here and what it can mean to us. And we can draw on all of these people's interpretation of no in our work. Barnes was the man that was determined to become Edison's business partner. What did he do? Well, he boarded a freight train because he said, I'm going to become Edison's business partner. He'd never met him. He didn't know who he was. He just knew his reputation. I'm going to be his business partner. He didn't even have the money for the rail fare. So he stowed away on a freight train to get to the meeting, met Edison, and no to him meant, how do I get there? How do I get the fare, or how do I get the transport to get to meet him? And he was later described by Edison as standing in front of him. He said he stood there before me looking like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after. He just didn't accept that no existed. It was not a word he was prepared to countenance, not at all. Napoleon tore the word no out of his dictionary and said, I see only my objectives. The obstacles must give way. He didn't have the word no in his dictionary. We can look at other examples in history before I wrap it up. There are a lot of other things I wanted to say today. I don't want to go on for too long. No, in terms of the Battle of Britain and the Second World War to England at that point meant we have to do this. There is no, we have no choice. We have to do this. The Battle of Britain, which we've just commemorated in the UK, we were outnumbered 640 to 2,600 aircraft in July 1940 when the great battle took place to try and stop an invasion. And no meant we got to do this. There was no. It was as simple as that. So sometimes we've got to stand back and assess the position and just say, come on, let's dig deep and get on with it. I think if we digest everything I've mentioned so far, our entrepreneurial path, as I've said, will often just put us out of phase. It does put us against all the no's, out of phase with society, with the world around us, perhaps even really with our family and with our friends who are saying, no, don't do it. But it's crucial that we can deal with that feeling of being out of phase. We have to be able to work that through in our minds and practice getting better at it. Feeling out of phase shouldn't feel uncomfortable to us. It should feel natural to us now if we want to progress. But it does require practicing resilience and building belief in our own purpose and being ready to resist doubters who don't see that purpose or understand it. It's learning to block out the no's before they even get into our mind, which Ivier talked about some months ago, sweeping the doorstep of negative thoughts and no's before you allow them to cross the threshold. I love that imagery. A no to a sale, for example, means let's move on to the next yes. It doesn't mean no. You're going to get thousands of no's when you're trying to sell things. Move on to the next yes. We can consider many, many, many other facets of this. I did want to say, though, we don't need to do this in a selfish way. We can do it whilst taking account of the feelings of others and the needs of others. We can take account of the needs of the planet. We can try and improve our service and our product while never accepting no. If we're prepared to put the effort in, we can still carry on, but do it in a responsible way. I think that's a very important message for me. We also have to learn to be ingenious. Steve Jobs' team had a meeting with him. They had to decide on a launch date. They had a fixed date for launching a new machine. They had to choose the way that the new computer CD was going to be inserted into the machine. He insisted that he was only going to accept the slot into which you put the disk, and it was swallowed up by the slot. They told him it wasn't going to be ready in time under any circumstance. It was too risky, and they preferred the drawer mechanism where the drawer opened and shut. No way, he said no. So for once, it was Jobs saying no. What they did is they thought, we better have a plan B. This is definitely not going to work. They hid the engineer from Japan in a cupboard every time Steve Jobs came near the area, so that he wouldn't recognize him, because he'd have instantly rumbled that they were working on the project that he turned down. And sure enough, the glorious day came. His slot did not work in time, and they had to roll out the drawer mechanism for CDs, and the rest is history. But they were ingenious enough to say, we're going to do it. We're actually going to hide the guy in the cupboard so that we don't get discovered. This is what it takes. It's just, there are so many ways of overcoming problems, so many ways of thinking laterally, so many ways of seeing the world. So let's all really try to do that. Overcoming naysayers, overcoming no's. Someone's definitely going to say no to you more than once. So get used to the fact it's going to happen. But what is interesting about the people we've talked about today, for me, it was them that said no. They said no to no. They refused to accept no. So the no was coming from them. Their no was stronger than the naysayers' no. So when someone said to them no, they just said, no way, no way, no way I'm accepting no. It has to be that forceful in our minds that we're not going to be deflected. So I'm going to open the floor, but don't take no for an answer was the theme today. And remember, no means what we make it mean. We can program ourselves to accept the way we hear the word no, not in a silly way, but in a smart way. Don't take no for an answer. Just from my point of view, just answer no way. So that's what I had to offer today in terms of my thoughts. I'd love to hear from all of you. I hope it's been a reminder that we're on a path of friction and resistance, and we've got to get tough. The tough get going when the going gets tough, as they say, and it's not an easy route that you've all chosen. So I'd love to hear some thoughts from everybody. Any hands to go up? Anyone have any thoughts on this? Don't see hands up at the moment. Maybe I'm not seeing them. Janet may have a thought. She's looking pensive.
I have no thought. I will entertain people while Edward raises his hand.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Adrian, for this. I mean, I have basically been a person who hasn't wanted to hear no and has done everything to not hear no. So that is my personality. It's not an easy route. Because just the people I live with, it's like, no, that you're crazy. Well, yeah, I'm crazy. Okay, so what? But I don't have my own example in business yet. But I really like all of the examples you gave us today. Many I knew, some I didn't. But yeah, this is right. In order to move on and innovate, you have to think beyond general thinking. You have to be able to see a larger view, to say, okay, if what is possible, or what is possible that I don't even know is possible? That's probably more the larger question. What's possible that I can't even think of right now? But I think if we start to work a little at a time, things start to reveal themselves to us. And as we stay open and things reveal themselves to us as we're working on them, then yes, we can start to see a vision, start to get an idea that just isn't there yet. No one has seen it. No one can imagine it. So therefore, it can't be done. Yeah, it can. And we just have so many more tools available to us now, so many more ways of doing things, so many more examples. We have to find our own elephants.
Absolutely, Janet. I agree with that. The lovely thoughts. And yeah, we don't know yet what is possible, and we don't know what is impossible until we've tried. And I spoke 2 weeks ago about Eddie the Eagle, who did not accept that it was impossible he would become an Olympic ski jumper.
I loved your story for that. I'm sorry, Adrian. I loved your
go
story
for it.
because so I live in America. Our coverage of the Olympics is different than what you would have, etc. And so I have to admit that I saw Eddie the Eagle as a little bit of a buffoon. But when you talked about him and told all the things, and not only that, not only did he get to realize his dream, but he was, it turned into more things. It went way beyond what his original vision was. So I so much that whole story, and I'm going to go read more and learn more about him, because you illuminated a whole thing that I had no idea. And now I respect that whole everything so much more. So thank you. There's people with their hands up now who want to talk, so I'll get off.
No, that's great, Janet. And watch the film if you get the chance. Great film about Eddie the Eagle. But as you say, he didn't get to the top level of championship, but he did it his way and he participated. And from his level and background and facilities he was given, he did a great job. He did the best he could with what he was given, but he did actually try. And as you say, we don't know what we're going to find and what is possible until we get stuck in and have a go. So that's the other side of the no coin, is having a go and not accepting no, but actually then taking action. So thank you, Janet. Now we have 2 hands up. I think Cyril had his hand up and Virginia's got a hand back up again. Did you want to go ahead, Cyril?
Hi, how you doing? Okay.
Yes, great to hear you.
You too, mate. It's an interesting one, this one. I've always had trouble with the no. Took me a long time before I wouldn't just accept no. And to some extent, sometimes it's about forgetting no and then moving on anyway. I think I found for myself, because I'd allow myself to get to when somebody in authority who seems to know what they're talking about says no, then it seems like a wall. And it's only from living and understanding that I can't accept that because I have no choice but not to accept that sometimes I've moved on. But and realizing that I have to deal with my and not just accept the word no, as a learning not to accept it has been a journey. I don't know how, I'm not sure how far along that journey. I think I'm a reasonable way now. I don't always quite accept it because I realize what other people, I've begun to realize that what other people say is no is just their lack of insight into what can be achieved in quite often, and therefore not to really take their no seriously. However, there are no's that aren't framed as no's that you have to be wary of, that I found for myself, and that's in my body. And my body says no, or appears to say no, and maybe that I need to find another route to sort that out, so yeah, learning when your own body is telling you that it doesn't like what you're doing, and then doing it anyway means that you have to suffer the consequences. So one of my one of my thoughts, ways of thinking is that sometimes, is it, okay, you have to pay a price for everything in this world, and it's whether you're willing to pay the price. And if you're willing to pay the price, then you can proceed, or at least proceed with caution. So and that's been very useful, because it's allowed me to at least enjoy more of my life than my body sometimes would allow me. So yeah, because sometimes the pain is worth it.
That's great, Cyril. No, I agree with you. We have to pay the price. And I think it was Napoleon Hill that wrote a whole section on that when we read it together. Paying the price is part of the equation here. There is no free lunch. You've got to put a lot of effort in and pay the price for the success you're seeking. That's absolutely right. And pushing ourselves beyond what we thought was possible is part of that as well. But as you've highlighted, really, and I tried to highlight, no is the default position. We've got to get used to that. It's easier for people just to say an automatic no than yes. So not only in sales and marketing, as John tries to train us for, but just generally in entrepreneurship, we're going to get a lot of no's. We have to learn how to work with those no's, carry on, find solutions, and push on. Otherwise, we're not going to get very far, because there are more no's than there are yeses. So, no, great, Cyril. Thank you very much. Virginia has a hand up again. I think she was just temporarily taken out of action there, but hi, Virginia. Great to hear you.
Okay.
Oh,
Hi, Adrian. Thank you.
Great to hear you.
Been meaning to reach out to you to see if you fared the storm well. I don't think you got too much hurricane action.
Very kind, very kind. No, we were extremely fortunate. We just avoided a Category 1 hurricane, which turned hurricane just across us after it hit us, and then it went to Category 3 eventually. So we were extremely lucky. There was a lot of damage, but it was manageable for most people. Sadly, a lot of people did suffer extreme flooding, so that wasn't so good. But these storms are gathering force and regularity, and as you saw, one even got to New York, which is a sign of the times.
We're really just getting into the season. You know, I grew up in Miami. I've been through like more hurricanes than I can even count at this point. Okay, so I wanted to say that. And then about this topic, it is so true. People resist change for various reasons. And I quite often blame myself for getting a no, meaning that I have a lot of sales experience. I'm not a natural salesperson, so I had to learn. I've sold cruises, sold health insurance, different things in my life. And I feel that if I have a good product and I'm passionate about it, then they're saying no. Or even a good, maybe it's not even a product, maybe it's just trying to convince someone that they should take their child to the urgent care center because they fell at the playground, and not to the hospital emergency room, you know, and not tax our system. We just had that in our house yesterday. My 9-year-old grandson fell on the playground and fractured his wrist, and I do believe they went to the hospital, much to my dismay, instead of the urgent care center. But I feel that I haven't explained it correctly. If I would explain it in a manner that reaches their ability to comprehend, then I wouldn't get a no on there. So I kind of look at, okay, so what is a different way I can present it? What is a different viewpoint, or what is this person's pain point that I'm not addressing? You know, why is this not important to them when it is an actually viable thing? So that's something that I just kind of figure I haven't done the good job. And consequently, that means that sometimes I'll go back to the person again. Well, have you considered it from this angle? Or have you considered it from that angle? And that goes over well and doesn't go over so well, because they just want to say, no, I don't want to consider it at all. I don't care if it's free. I don't care if it's the best thing since sliced bread. I don't care if it's going to save my life. I don't want to bother. And then you just have to get past, like, maybe it's not the right time for them, or it's not necessarily something that you did or didn't do, but just their own mental ability to deal with whatever's going on in their life at the time. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
I like that a lot, Virginia. And you've reminded us of a lot of things, including resistance to change again. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, yes, as I said in my talk, no in sales means I'm going to work towards the next yes, not that I'm going to give up. But of course, we've got to be smart too. We've got to be, and I've seen examples of this, if we consistently cannot sell anything, clearly we then have to look at the pain point, what we're addressing, and whether there's some innovation we need in the product or tweak we need in the service or the pricing, or what is going on. Blindly going on, not accepting no, is what Einstein would have described as the definition of insanity. So we have to be able to say, wait a minute, are these no's telling me something useful? Don't take them as defeat, take them as indications and work with them. But in sales, you've got to be thick-skinned and tough enough to go for the next yes. And you're absolutely right about that. I agree with you 100%. Thanks, Virginia. Great thoughts.
Thank you.
Edward thanks, Virginia. Edward has his hands up. Great to hear you, Edward.
Hello, Adrian, everybody. How y'all doing today?
Great here.
I hope you're doing well. This topic is so on point, because if you think about the no's that you have to get to be successful, you have to learn to reframe what a no is. It really is basically the next opportunity. You have to look at it as a game. You have to play the game, and you want to win the game. You want to, instead of being a salesperson, you want to become a decision collector. You want to decide that you are going to find out whether these people are going to move now or not. Okay. It's a ritual that you've got to understand that the game's got to be played in order for somebody to win, and you want to be the winner. Okay. The game I play is how many no's can I get? How many can I get? Because I know that my number is 46. If I get 46 no's, then guess what? I'm going to win. I know that for sure. And then, like, say, for instance, you want to enjoy the benefits. You don't want to pay the price. I heard Zig Ziglar say this a long time ago. He says, paying the price is not what you're trying to do. You want to enjoy the benefits. You got to go through some things to enjoy the benefits. He said something about, the mantra of paying the price. You sound like a dying calf in a snowstorm, and that's a reframing scenario. You have to have that the philosophy of, you gotta not go to work, but you have to have the philosophy and the mentality of, I get to work, because there's so many people who don't get to do what you're doing. There's so many people in parts of the world who don't have a drink of water, but we're so fortunate. We're so blessed to be in this realm of success and opportunity. I mean, look at YouTube. You can get on YouTube and get your daily blast of anything you want. Just put in one word: inspiration, motivation, sales activity, whatever you want, prospecting. And it supports what we do every day on this platform. And non-attachment is another thing that we got to think about. When you use your platform as a decision collector, you can't be attached. Whether they're ready to go or not, I mean, you have the goods. This is something that John has, instilled in me. You have the goods. There's nothing that this person can take away or give. It's just whether whether they want to join you. And it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to find the person who's ready to go with what you got going on right now. That's all it is. That's all sales is a congruence of ideas. And when you become congruent with the idea that the person is looking for, a sale is going to be made. So like I said, it's just reframing what's going on. The no's, welcome the no's, love the no's, because the no's are getting you closer and closer to where you want to be. And that's all I have to say.
I love it, Edward. That's one of the most positive contributions we've had. And let's defeat no. I'll remember from that. That was the whole theme for today. And as I said, there are so many ways we can interpret the word no, but we have to look at it differently, as all those entrepreneurs I mentioned did. In order to succeed, they had to look at no a different way. So I absolutely agree with you. That's very positive. Reframing no, turning it into a game, saying eventually I'm going to get the next yes is what I've been saying too. You have to wait for the next yes. Don't just look at the no. It's leading you to the next yes. whether that's in your business idea, the actual sales you're trying to make that day, same sort of process. Keep hammering away until you get the idea straightened out or you get the sales straightened out and made. So Edward, that was great. I really enjoyed that. Thanks a lot. And Virginia has a hand up again. Great to hear you again, Virginia.
Hi, I want to talk to Edward. So Edward, are you, the book study that we're doing now is working with the law? Are you in that? I haven't been able to attend. Okay, so I've just downloaded it on Kindle. I just downloaded it on Kindle, and of all the books that we have done, and I've enjoyed them immensely, this one I just think is hitting the nail with the hammer on the head. And something that I want to share with you is that you mentioned, you know, you have to get to 46 no's before you get that yes. Well, in here, what he is saying, a picture of my kids, what he is saying is that's our expectation. And so that's what we're attracting. I have a new product that I'm working with, and I'm looking, okay, how many no's? I read the book that Glenn Henderson recommended on Go for the No. Because you get so many no's, then you know you're going to get to your yes. But maybe we're also setting that ourselves. So my challenge to me is, if I know I have to talk to 20 people before I get one that gives me a yes, maybe that's my expectation. Maybe I need to cut that back to, well, what if I expect to only speak to 15 and get a yes? What if you expect to only speak to 30 and get a yes? Would that actually change? And he does, in a part I was reading about expectation, he does a lot of references to, you know, biblical things and all. And he was talking about the lady who had, oh, I just lost it, the lady Hannah who had no money, and she had to save her 2 sons because of her husband's death. And she asked Elijah what she could do. And he said, what do you have that you could sell? And she says, I just have this little bit of oil left in the bottom of this clay jar. And he said, well, go out to your friends and borrow as many containers of oil as you can. And she did. And he told her to start pouring. And of course, it filled every container. And that's as much as I had ever gotten from the story. And I thought that was great. Well, this in the book, his point is, it exactly stopped at the number of containers that she had gathered. Had she gathered more containers, it would have continued flowing. And that blew me away. I'm like, so that was her expectation. If anything was going to happen, I've got 10 containers, 20 containers, whatever. And that's all she received, is what she expected. So I am now going to challenge us to, let's expect more with less work. Are we holding ourselves back because we think we've got to get to that many no's before we get to a yes? Well, maybe it could be less no's. You know, I'm going to work on that. But that, I really, really have enjoyed this book so much. I ordered it last night to have a printed copy as well.
Fascinating, fascinating, Virginia, and very positive thoughts. It's all about mindset again. It's all about our mindset. And I think what you've hit on there is, the more we do it, yes, we're going to get more yeses than no's eventually, particularly as we start refining our service and our product and learning more about the market we've got into. We'll get better at it. And then we will produce something super easy to sell. So yes, it's all about evolution, but not letting those no's deflect us onto the wrong path on the way. Edward, there was a request to put the name of the book in the chat, but can somebody put it in the chat or tell us what it was called?
It's working with the
Don't
law.
take no, I think it was.
Yeah.
I do remember it.
The law. Well, the one that we're on now
Which one
is
you talking
working with
about?
the law.
That's the,
Working with the law is one of them.
Yeah.
That's the one we're on now, is working by the law. John, who is it by? Who's the author? But if you go into the group in the
Raymond
study.
Hollywell,
Raymond Hollywell.
Hollywell.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. So, some very positive thinking today. That is the way we have to be. We've got to be absolutely decisive and positive in the face of all these no's, which are many and will remain numerous for as long as we're on these journeys. So let's not be put off. And let's learn to interpret what we take no to mean to us, and have that set into our mindset. It has to be really strongly baked in there. Otherwise, we just stop, put our hands down and give up, which we're not going to do. So if there are no more contributions today, we've had some great ones. Thank you very much. I will bring the session to a close unless somebody had any further burning thoughts and burning desires. Another session tonight, Ivier Barnabas, 5 o'clock Eastern Time US. John may speak. John, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge everyone here. It's great to be able to tune in and hear, you know, the stuff that I've been working on for some decades now, showing up even without me initiating the topic. It's so profound. So thank you. You're profound, Adrian. Thank you.
John, that's very kind. I think everyone in the group is profound, and everybody has come so far on this journey already that it's absolutely great to see. Particularly some members of the group who struggled at the beginning to believe in themselves. I just love seeing them fly now. That's just wonderful to see. So this mindset work that we've been doing, John, that you've inspired us to do, has really worked. And it's the only way. We know it's the only way to get across the bridge. You can't get across the bridge without a strong mental picture, strong mental attitude. So the great session. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget Ivier tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. in the UK. At the moment, if anyone from the UK is on at the moment, Edward is there, I see, Edward in Bradford. Otherwise, we will see everybody tomorrow, and we will look forward to the next great general session. Fantastic to see everybody. Sorry for the slight blip in the recording in the middle. And I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining the session. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Adrian.
Bye for now. Bye for now. Goodbye. Bye.